Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
I saw you earlier today. I was doing Mac Break Weekly, and you were running around the studio shooting pictures with this thing.
Well, yeah, these things, actually. We have the Asus MeMO Pad 7 and the MeMO Pad 8. Two different tablets, same line. And these are kind of notable in the Android tablet world because they're running the 64-bit Intel Atom Z 3745 processor.
They are not ARM processor. They're an Intel processor.
They're Intel Atom processor. So... yeah, and, you know, honestly, so we've got the 7 and the 8. I've never done a dual review here necessarily, and thankfully they're both very similar. One is obviously just a little bit larger than the other, but I can give you kind of the specs that match on both and then how they differ. So let's start there. This is, of course, a 7-inch 1280 by 800 IPS LCD display. The other one has, you know, an 8-inch of the same technology. 1 gig of RAM in these devices, 16 gigs of storage, micro SD card slot on the side, got a 5 megapixel rear facing camera back here, and then a 2 megapixel front facing camera. And this is a 3910 milliamp hour battery. And of course, this is a Bay Trail processor. So battery performance is actually one thing that I've really liked about this. It's very conservative as far as the battery is concerned. I hardly had to even worry about plugging these things in, and I was using them relatively regularly because I've had them for a few weeks now. Other things have come along to kind of trump them on this show, but it's also kind of hard to share your time between two tablets.
It
right?
is. You have to force yourself to do it. The 7-inch looks a lot like the Nexus 7.
Yes, it does, actually. And you know, what can I say about the 7-inch versus the 6? I'd say the 7-inch actually performed a little worse than the 6, and that's because the 7-inch...
That's just the 8-inch, and that's...
sorry.
The
yes,
7-inch.
the 8 versus
see...
the 7. I'm getting them all mixed up.
That's very confusing.
The 8-inch has a 1.33 gigahertz quad-core processor.
Okay.
The 7-inch has a 1.86.
It's faster.
So it's a little bit faster.
That's weird.
I do perceive a difference. When I was gaming on the smaller tablet, I actually noticed an improvement, a marked improvement between the two. And also the camera. So I don't normally spend a whole lot of time reviewing camera performance on tablets. Personally, my own use case, I don't really take a whole lot of pictures, but I know people do. But it's important to know that the larger tablet, the 8, actually produces much better pictures than the 7. And Brian, I don't know if you have some of those lined up in there.
You're making this hard because this is a faster processor.
I know,
but the bigger one has a better camera.
Yes. So what's most important to you?
Well, that's good detail, actually.
So the first one, I believe, is the 7. Is that right? And then the second one is the 8. Might be kind of hard to see here, but you'll probably notice as we kind of go through
this is a tough picture because of the lighting.
7 front-facing camera.
Yeah.
And then 8, a little bit sharper,
better.
a little bit more vivid. Yeah. 7, you can see a little bit of blurring around the lines, and then the 8, it kind of sharpens a little bit further out too. You get a little bit of a wider camera perspective.
It's almost as if they're over sharpening on the 7-inch.
Yeah, they're doing something, and I really noticed it on a desktop computer, being able to blow these pictures up and really take a look at them. The 7 consistently was poorer pictures, pretty noticeably, than the 8. So if that's important to you, there you go. You know, I don't know how many people see it.
You can see
really
that was
7.8.
But that was 7.8, right? The 7, so it's just a little softer, and the 8's a lot crisper. Yeah.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. So there's that. I mean, as far as the design is concerned on these tablets, I didn't really mention the price here, right? The MeMO Pad 7 is $149.99.
Wow.
So consider this
less
budget
than the
tablet
Nexus 7.
category.
Wow.
Oh yes, definitely less. The larger, the 8, is $199.
$50 more.
Yep, $50 more, and you get a little bit larger of the size. And the design, I'd say, is pretty unassuming. I don't hate the design at all, actually. I kind of like it. It's just kind of nondescript for the most part. So if you're looking for style, not going to get much of style points out of these, but they're super solid. They don't, do the creaky thing.
When I saw you taking a picture with this Asus 7 MeMO Pad, the 7-inch, I thought it was a Samsung.
Oh, okay.
I thought, wow, he's got a really big Samsung phone there.
Yeah, I could totally see that from afar, especially.
How's that feel? Yeah.
The UI is, of course, Asus's Zen
UI. Do they customize it a lot, or
they don't customize it a ton? I mean, it's obviously a little different here. They've kind of made some changes, but overall, everything's where you expect it to be.
Ooh.
They've definitely skinned that.
That's the settings.
It almost has like a material design quality to it with the colors and the dots and everything. But I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be honest.
It is KitKat?
It is KitKat. It's running 4.4.2.
A little behind. All right.
Yeah. What else have I not talked about here? There's some interesting kind of software enhancements to the cameras, things like smart remove, so you can remove motion, things in the background that are moving, or
what's amazing,
selfie mode for the rear-facing
for under
camera.
$200. These are, I'm sure there's pros and cons, but these are pretty credible entries.
I would absolutely
agree. And at that price, it really just shows you the commoditization of tablets.
Oh, it's kind of crazy right now, and especially when you consider like tablets sub $150 versus what you get for phones for $300.
I know.
It's such a wide,
or $700
or $500 or $700. Meanwhile, you're talking about larger, more capable devices in a lot of different ways.
Isn't that interesting?
So, yeah.
SD card memory, extra storage?
Yes, both have micro SD card
and
slots.
what kind of
on
speakers?
They have they have stereo speakers on the back.
Dual back ported stereo.
Yep.
Okay.
You can kind of see them down at the bottom there.
Yeah. Sound is okay?
Sound is all right. Yeah, I actually did notice part of the gaming performance issue that I noticed on the larger tablet was a weird sound issue when I gamed, where things would kind of repeat sometimes. Audio actually would kind of almost as if it were being run through a delay, and I'm not sure if it was a hardware issue or a software issue, but I definitely noticed that, and I didn't notice it on the smaller tablet.
Thank you for forcing yourself to use both of these.
It was hard. I got to tell you,
believe
this
me.
is not an easy review to do when you're talking about two tablets. So
let's get the pros and cons.
Let's do that. So pros, obviously, it's super affordable. Sturdy design. I actually really like the design, even though it's unassuming. It's pretty great. And I'd say they perform pretty darn well. They're very capable little tablets, particularly with that Atom processor in there. The cons, definitely the camera. I'd say more so on the smaller of the two, on the 7 versus the 8, but camera performance overall wasn't amazing. 1 gig of RAM is going to, potentially in the long run, maybe that'll be a little low.
Top Android phones now have 3.
Oh, yeah. They're coming out with 3 right now.
And it does make a difference in performance.
It does. It absolutely does. And then display, maybe, because these aren't like super high-res displays.
Right.
They're, 216 pixels per inch. But, that's really a maybe. I think when you're talking budget category, these are perfectly capable.
720p is pretty typical.
Yeah. So, verdict, I'd say I'd recommend that you buy the 7. I think $150 roundabouts is a really great price for this kind of technology. I'd say try the 8. See if $50 is really worth it for the 8, because it does have some drawbacks, I thought, between the two.